What is it with fake dating tropes? I swear I have never read a bad one, and this one is no different. I am talking about The Right Move by Liz Tomforde, book 2 in the Windy City series, and I promise you this one has it all. Let me start. So we open on Ryan Shea, 27, brand new captain of the Chicago Devils. That's the NBA team in this universe. And he is a lot. The guy organizes his bookshelf alphabetically by author's last name, owns exactly 4 of everything, doesn't date, hasn't dated since college, and treats his apartment like a fortress of solitude. He's basically a hot, brooding, minimalist robot. His twin sister Stevie, who's dating a hockey player named Xanders from the first book, by the way, comes to him with a favor. Her best friend Indy needs a place to live ASAP because she just got cheated on, lost her apartment, and is basically homeless. Ryan's answer? A flat-out no. He does not want a roommate. He likes his silence, his control, his 4 matching plates. But it's Stevie, and apparently Ryan cannot say no to his sister, ever. So he caves. Reluctantly, with multiple stipulations. Now let's meet Indy Ivers. She's a flight attendant for the hockey team. 27, blonde, gorgeous, an absolute social butterfly. And she's an emotional wreck because 6 months ago, she came home early from a work trip and found her boyfriend of 6 years, Alex, in bed with another woman. In their bed. The guy she'd known since they were literal children. The guy who never proposed, despite 6 years together, mind you. So Indy's plan is move in with Ryan, who she's met exactly twice. Once when he was shirtless, rude, no warning, and once when she got drunk and threw up on his shoes. Iconic first impressions all around. Indy moves in while Ryan's at a fancy event, and by the time he gets home, her stuff has exploded all over his pristine black and white apartment. Clothes everywhere, color everywhere. The whole vibe is unicorn threw up in here. Ryan is not happy. He's cold, he's blunt. He basically tells her, I don't want you here. I'm only doing this for my sister. Classy, Ryan. Indy cries, throws a pink heel at his door, tells him she's leaving Chicago entirely. And Ryan, surprise, feels guilty, refuses to let her leave, and tells her she's staying. Welcome to the we hate each other but actually don't era. The next morning, he makes her breakfast as an apology. They start trading information. He learns her real name is Indigo. Yes, like the color. He starts calling her Blue. And honestly, the chemistry is already simmering, even though they're both pretending it's not. They draw up a leasing agreement. Rent is basically nothing because Ryan lowballs her on purpose. Plus rules. No guests, no overnight visitors, because Ryan's privacy is basically sacred, since he's like a top 3 player in the league and his life is constantly under a microscope. Okay, here's where it gets good. Indy shows up at Ryan's practice one day looking incredible, and his GM Ron, who's been low-key suspicious that Ryan isn't leadership material because he's a loner with no personal life, corners Ryan about his image. And in a moment of pure panic, Ryan blurts out that he has a girlfriend. Then Ron sees Indy standing right there. So Ryan, digging himself a hole he cannot climb out of, introduces Indy as his girlfriend, on the spot. She has no idea what's happening and just kind of rolls with it, calling him honey bun and cupcake because she's a romance reader and apparently that's how she copes. Cue Ryan begging Indy to be his fake girlfriend for one event, a fancy fall banquet, so his GM will believe he's softened up enough to be a good captain. And Indy, who is also dreading her best friend's upcoming wedding because her cheating ex, Alex, will be there with a date, makes a deal. She'll be his fake girlfriend for the banquet, and he'll be her fake date to the wedding. They even make bucket lists for each other. Ryan needs to learn to be a convincing boyfriend. Slow dance, jealousy, casual touching, and Indy needs to learn to be alone. Because the woman has never spent a single night without someone else to take care of. One item on Ryan's list, though, is firmly off the table: kissing. He says he doesn't fake intimacy. Foreshadowing, write that down. The fall banquet happens, and Ryan is so bad at being a fake boyfriend. Like, his version of PDA is a high five to her shoulder. But Indy is a natural, charming his GM's wife Caroline instantly. She's obsessed with Indy, by the way, which becomes a recurring bit. Despite Ryan being stiff as a board the whole night, there's this moment where he warms her hands and just watches her with this softness that even Indy notices. Back home, things start shifting. Ryan accidentally overwaters Indy's flowers and kills them, then goes out and buys her replacement flowers, Black-Eyed Susans, because the original kind was sold out. And Indy thinks this is the most romantically devastating thing a man has ever done for her. And honestly, same, Indy, same. There's a hug in the kitchen where Indy feels something pressing against her, if you know what I mean. And Ryan is mortified, but also can't stop thinking about her. Then comes the bucket list date. Indy goes to Ryan's basketball game on the road, watches him play, and it's giving her feelings, watching this controlled, precise man dominate on the court. Meanwhile, back home, she tries to relieve some tension by herself, watching him on TV. But every time she gets close, her brain flashes back to walking in on Alex cheating, and she just can't finish. She's been unable to orgasm for 7 months because of the trauma. That's the emotional stakes here, just so you know how high they are. Ryan's GM invites them on a glamping trip, fancy heated cabins basically, and they have to share a bed for the first time. There's a moment where Indy accidentally walks in on Ryan, her towel drops, things get very tense, and that night, Ryan ends up taking a shower thinking about her. Let's just say he is no longer celibate in his imagination, even if his body hasn't caught up yet. That night in bed, hands brush, fingers intertwine, and they have this deeply vulnerable conversation. Ryan tells her he's never been alone with no one to take care of, and Indy admits her biggest secret. She's saving money to freeze her eggs because of a fertility issue, and her ex strung her along for years about trying soon, until it was almost too late. Ryan, furious on her behalf, tells her it's not desperate to want what she wants. It's actually really sweet. No sarcasm. After the trip, Indy starts driving ride shares at night for extra cash, and Ryan absolutely loses it with worry, like pacing the apartment, can't focus levels of worry. He admits he cares about her, sort of, in his very Ryan way, and stops charging her rent entirely. Then, the moment. They go to one of Ryan's games and run into Indy's ex, Alex, outside the arena. Alex is being smug, asking if she's bringing a date to the wedding, basically making Indy feel small and forgettable. And Ryan, who has not kissed her this whole time, who said he doesn't fake intimacy, walks right up, grabs her face, and kisses her in front of Alex. Hard. It is, by Indy's own admission, the best kiss of her life. And then Ryan, the absolute coward, says, "It was acting, Ind." Sir, we all know it wasn't. So here's a plot point that's honestly kind of iconic. Ryan reveals he's been celibate for 2 years, like voluntarily, because of trust issues we don't fully understand yet. More on that later, it's a doozy. Indy is shook because she'd assumed he was just private. Nope, full celibacy. This leads to one of those classic kitchen counter, accidentally seductive, ends in a standoff scenes. Ryan catches her bending over the dishwasher. There's tension. He tells her she's playing a game she won't win, gets her all worked up against the silverware drawer, and then just leaves her there, walks away, drops the mic with, "I'm celibate, that's why." I cannot make this up, you guys. Indy, frustrated and desperate to prove she can move on from Alex, goes on an actual Tinder date with a guy named Jason, who is the human equivalent of a red flag emoji. Handsy, self-obsessed, won't stop talking about himself. Indy texts a friend for a rescue ride, but word gets to Ryan that she's on a date and being made uncomfortable. And Ryan, I cannot stress this enough, leaves his apartment in public to go save her. This man does not leave the apartment for fun, so that's how you know it's serious. He shows up at the bar, basically growls, "Get your hands off her," and drives her home in tense silence. Once home, there's a huge fight. Indy admits she hasn't had an orgasm in 8 months because of the trauma from catching Alex cheating, and that she just wanted one night with someone who wasn't him to try to move past it. And Ryan, pushed past his limit, pins her to the wall and kisses her. For real this time. No audience, no excuse. And what follows is a very steamy moment, let's just say, against the entryway wall that ends with Indy finally getting the release she's needed for 8 months. Ryan doesn't even take his own clothes off. He just takes care of her, then walks away again. He has a type, apparently. Emotionally significant moments followed by an exit. A few days of radio silence later, Ryan's away on a road trip, freaking out internally. Indy calls him. Things are sweet and normal again, and Ryan plans a surprise for her. A fancy dress, a mystery party. Turns out it's Xander's engagement party for Stevie. Big emotional moment, lots of happy tears. At the party, there's flirting, jealousy. Ryan watches Indy dance with their friend Rio and gets all possessive. A hot car ride home where they're basically dry humping in front of everyone. And finally, when they get home, Indy asks Ryan to help her unzip her dress. And this time, neither of them stops. What follows is a long, emotional, extremely steamy night where Ryan finally breaks his celibacy streak with Indy. Though, notably, he spends most of the first round making sure she gets taken care of multiple times before anything else happens, because the man has range, apparently. It's intimate, it's intense, and afterward, Ryan straight up panics and runs to his room, leaving Indy confused. Here's the heavy stuff. The next day, Indy gets sick, overworked, stressed, emotionally fried, and Ryan takes care of her. Literally carries her home from a bridal shower, braids her wet hair, the whole 9 yards. And this is when Ryan finally tells her the truth about his past. In college, he fell in love with a woman named Marissa. She got pregnant. He was over the moon, bought this whole apartment in Chicago to start a family in, flew to be there for the birth. And in the delivery room, found out the baby wasn't his. Marissa and her actual boyfriend had been scamming him the entire relationship to get 18 years of child support. Ryan fell into a 2-year depression after that, became a total recluse, and swore off relationships and trust entirely. The yellow room in his apartment that Indy's been living in, that was supposed to be the nursery. It's genuinely heartbreaking, and it explains everything about why this man is the way he is. Around this time, Ryan suffers a scary knee injury during a game. Could have been career-ending, but turns out to be a sprain. Just a month of recovery. He's devastated, spirals about his identity being tied entirely to basketball, and finally has a full emotional breakdown in front of Indy, crying, admitting he feels suffocated by the pressure of being perfect all the time. Indy, being Indy, throws a team dinner at their apartment to help Ryan reconnect with his teammates, since he's historically been a total loner captain. And it works! The guys love it, love Indy, and Ryan starts to open up. There's a really sweet moment where his sister Stevie walks in on Indy in Ryan's lap right as Indy, overwhelmed by everything Ryan just confessed, announces she might move out now that her fertility treatment is covered by insurance, so she doesn't need to live there to save money anymore. Cue Ryan absolutely shutting that down. He chases her down at Stevie's place, declares in front of an audience, toothbrush in hand, that she's the most inconvenient thing that's ever happened to him, which from Ryan is basically a sonnet. And that's when they fully get together. For real. No more pretending. That night, they finally have sex for the first time. And listeners, it is a whole chapter. Slow, emotional, a little overwhelming for both of them, given everything they've been through. And it ends with both of them basically declaring they're all in. Ryan even brings up the foundation idea Indy had pitched him weeks earlier, using his money and platform to help underprivileged kids in Chicago. and she's already drafted an entire business plan for it. The man is in love, you guys. Fast forward. Indy's childhood best friend Maggie's wedding is coming up, the one with cheating ex Alex in attendance. But before that, there's a scare. Ryan finds a positive pregnancy test in the apartment and absolutely spirals, having a panic flashback to the Marissa situation, and says some things he immediately regrets, basically implying he wondered if Indy did it on purpose. Plot twist? It's not Indy's test. It's Stevie's. Stevie's pregnant. Big happy news. But the damage between Ryan and Indy is done. Indy moves out to stay with their friend Rio, devastated that Ryan's gut reaction to a possible pregnancy was fear and suspicion instead of joy. There's a beautiful moment at one of Ryan's games where Indy watches him communicate in sign language with a deaf little girl at a charity event. Because, get this, Ryan's been secretly learning ASL for months to talk to Indy's deaf father without needing a translator. And Indy basically melts into a puddle of tears in the bathroom, realizing this man has been loving her loudly the whole time, just quietly. Then comes the wedding. Ryan shows up, despite hating crowds and attention, sits in the back, and during the ceremony, he and Indy just stare at each other the entire time. Afterward, they sneak away together, and Ryan finally says it. He loves her, he wants their future, their life, all of it. And Indy says it back first. 3 words, loudest she's ever said anything quietly. They're official, for real, no fake anything. Oh, and Ryan also threatens Alex at the bar in the most deliciously petty way possible, basically promising to ruin his life if he ever makes Indy cry again. Then drops the line that one day his last name will be her last name too. Iconic. Weeks later, Ryan comes home from a road trip to find the apartment completely empty. Indy moved everything out without telling him. He panics, drives 30 minutes outside the city to a house, and finds Indy there, having moved everything into a beautiful 5-bedroom home that Ryan secretly bought back in January, right after he found out about her fertility struggles, with her name already on the deed. He'd also been quietly paying for her egg freezing treatment out of pocket the whole time, which is why her insurance covered it story was actually a lie he arranged. He tells her he wants this to be their forever home, full of kids, friends, team dinners, the whole vision. They have an extremely emotional, extremely steamy reunion, you can imagine. Ryan finally moves in for real, and that night they throw a massive party to celebrate the Devils clinching their first playoff spot in 6 years, with literally everyone they love there, including Indy's parents flying in, where her dad gives Ryan a sign name in ASL, basically welcoming him into the family. And then the epilogue. 4 years later, Ryan and Indy are married, living in that house with 2 kids. Iverson, their biological son, after a long IVF journey with multiple failed attempts, and Navy, who they adopted as an infant just 3 months apart from Iverson, so the two are basically raised as twins. Indy quit flying years ago and now runs the Ryan Shea Foundation full-time, the charity initiative she pitched him way back when, which has grown into something massive for Chicago's underserved schools and communities. Ryan's now a 2-time MVP and NBA champion. Stevie and Xander's have their own daughter, Taylor. Everyone's basically one big, happy family unit at the United Center, watching games together. And the book ends with Ryan and Indy being disgustingly in love and disgustingly happy, which, after everything these two went through, they absolutely deserve. So that's the right move, start to finish. Go read it, or reread it, or just come scream about Ryan Shea in the comments. See you in the next one.